All right, and we are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and this is my channel, Bar911-970. And we have some interesting times ahead of us right now. I originally started talking about this on my other channel, my We Love Comics channel, because the second part that I'll talk about had to do with some comic books, but I think this is more appropriate place to talk about this because as bad as some of this stuff is, I think there is kind of that silver lining, and I'll get into that later, so hopefully you'll take the time to listen to this whole thing, because Hollywood is definitely, I think, really being exposed for what it truly is, and what I've been warning people about for the longest time. And this is one of those cases of better late than never, because if we could really start exposing the fraudulent and the darker aspect of Hollywood and the agendas that are going on, you don't know you have a problem until you acknowledge it, and you can't fix it until then. So I think there could be an underlying benefit from this. So let's get into it. And I'm sure this will not be a video that will be largely exposed, because they love blocking my channel. 42,000 subscribers, and I'll be lucky to get 300 views on this. So let's start out with the individual on the right. His name is Trevor Noah. I believe he comes from South Africa, and he moved here to join the Hollywood leftist agenda, where he's on a show called The Daily Show. I haven't watched that show in years. But you see, with a lot of these talk show hosts, they talk about there's no agendas, but if you switch on every single day, they're always exposing themselves for who they are, because I've said this so many times, by their deeds you shall know them. So recently, and it shows the hypocrisy of the left and how they're eating themselves alive from their own situation, so I don't feel sorry for these people. So Trevor Noah made a joke the other day where he was congratulating the French winning the World Cup. Now, the French team was all black. So he made a joke saying that, well, we know where these people really came from. They're not really from France. They're from Africa. I don't have the direct quote. But the left went crazy and now are calling him a racist, because people, especially people in France, were upset that just because people were the skin color of black does not mean they couldn't be French. And that was a very racist comment. Now, this is ironic in a sense, because now he gets to feel what a lot of us have been feeling lately, that if you say anything, you will automatically be considered a racist, even if it's made in jest. So he's been one of those people that on his show all the time, calling people on the right, or people that like Trump, or people that have a different point of view than what the media is trying to spill all over you, calling you a racist. Well, now he's being called a racist. So I wonder if the hypocrisy will set in. Probably won't. But I find that so ironically enjoyable to watch people who point their finger all the time all of a sudden have it thrown back at themselves. I'm a firm believer in karma and how karma will find you. So there he was, just making a joke, and now his Twitter account was being bombarded with people calling him a racist, which I find funny, because for how long have people been telling you that if you were an African American, well, you couldn't be racist? And here's an example of him. Actually, he was from Africa, and he moved here, so he's definitely African American if you go by the actual term. And here he is being labeled a racist by the left, the very people he's been propagating for and promoting on his daily show. So I kind of enjoy that hypocrisy. But here's the one that just came out as of either last night or today. I didn't find it until this morning. As soon as I saw it, I tried to warn some of my comic book collectors to be careful about the books that you're buying, and I'm being attacked. The video I made showing part of the video has already gotten 10 thumbs down. I had to delete several comments from people calling me a liar and attacking my credibility, because I'm actually not defending somebody who did the following. Now, whether it was in jest or not, it's an incredibly bad taste what he did. And there are videos out there. I'm not going to post the link. I already did it on my other channel. If you want, go on We Love Comics. You could see it. You know, have fun thumbing it down if you want to, because I don't care about that stuff. It just shows people's true colors. But there was a video that came out that he did years ago where he climbs through a window talking about how he drugged a baby. Now, it's not a real baby, so I want to make sure that's perfectly clear, but it is a baby doll that he has lying on a couch covered in a blanket, and he comes through a window talking about how he drugged the baby with sleeping pills. He literally pulls down his pants and mounts the baby doll and starts performing a sexual act to it. And there are 2 different videos that show this clip. Now, inappropriate? I would believe so. Freedom of speech? Well, he does have the right, but I mean, there are certain things you just don't talk about. I mean, especially these days when comedians get bombarded. If you talk about anything about having to do with rape, people go crazy. So now, about a week ago, James Gunn, who is the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, was fired for just tweets, again, having to do with a form of pedophilia. Now, do you ever have somebody in your life that tried to get you to do something that may not have been, you know, maybe you were dating somebody and they wanted to try some kind of perverted act, and they suggest something and you look at them like they're crazy and say, no, I would never do that, and they turn around and say, oh, just kidding? So now, obviously, I can't go into their minds. I don't know what their true thoughts are about these things. But you notice, I mean, let's put it this way. I'll ask anybody that watches this, whether you're watching it live or you watch it days, weeks, or months later. How many of you in your lifetime ever heard a baby rape joke? I sure haven't. And how many of you, if you heard a baby rape joke where somebody says they're drugging a baby and raping them, how many of you would find that funny? Now, free speech would allow you to say it, but that doesn't mean that people will not respond in probably a shocking way or a very upset way. Because we'll put it this way. If you had a baby, and I don't have any children, but if you had an infant, and you were hiring a babysitter to babysit your baby while you're away, and you found that they put a video out, let's say it's 100% joking around, saying how they would love to drug a baby and have sex with it, would you hire that person to watch your baby and be alone with them? So you see where I'm talking about? There's a certain line you may not cross. Now, having the right to do it is a different story. I'm not saying that Dan Harmon does not have the right to make that video, but there are consequences for your actions. Just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean that good things will come from it. Like, you have this freedom of speech to go up to a bodybuilder and call them a jerk and an idiot and say you could beat the living daylights out of them. But don't be shocked if they turn around and knock you out. Now, is that a good response for somebody to handle? Probably not. But, you know, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So, if you are going to use freedom of speech, which we are entitled to have, freedom of speech means you can say the stupidest things. You could say the cruelest things. But that doesn't mean there isn't going to be a backlash for it. So, what I find ironically sweet about the left is they're exposing themselves to people who thought this was a joke. To this day, there are still people that think this stuff is a joke. Like, I was talking about how I want to sell my comics that this person made because I don't agree with that kind of humor. And there are some people that joked around saying, oh, I'll buy them all. So there are people who are willing to release their integrity for profit. And I think that's kind of sad. And there were, you know, a few bad apples try and spoil the tree. They mistaken my passion for anger and frustration. I'm very passionate when it comes to protecting animals, and I'm very passionate when it comes to protecting children. And if you've been on this channel for a while, you know that years ago I was warning people about this stuff. Hollywood made the word casting couch a joke. And if you actually research about what Hollywood does to children, you would only wish that it stopped at making jokes about having sex with babies. I mean, all you have to do is research about what's that girl from the 30s? Not Curly Sue, but Mary something. I forget her name. She was like a little child star. Please put it in the comment section if you know. But she was talking in her biography of the inappropriate touching. I mean, just recently, that African-American actor, that weightlifter guy, the guy that was in Daredevil, no, not Daredevil, but Deadpool 2, he was up in front of Congress talking about how he was being touched inappropriately. And they laugh it off like it's no big deal, because if you make it into a joke, then most people will pretend it's not real. And what I find good about this, if you could take good out of this at all, is it's exposing them for who they truly are. And once you pull back that Band-Aid and see that scar, there is no turning back. So I wish this stuff didn't exist. But sadly it does. What we can do by exposing it is keeping it from continuing. Because like I said, the casting couch, that's a joke in Hollywood. But many people, to make money, would volunteer to do these things to get a movie career going. Because it is choice, believe it or not. Because, let's put it this way, if you wanted to become a Hollywood actor, and you go for an audition, and the director or whoever's doing the interview says to you, well, I could make your dreams come true. You'll become a superstar. You'll make millions of dollars. And yes, Shirley Temple, so thank you for that. I knew it had something to do with a drink. I was thinking a Virgin Mary, but it's Shirley Temple, thank you. But if you went to Hollywood and you're being interviewed and they said, I'll make you a star, you'll be the next Brad Pitt, the next Tom Cruise, you know, whatever, all you have to do is have intercourse with me. You don't have to say yes. They don't put a gun to your head and say you have no choice. You can get up and walk away and say, you know what, my dream is not that important. Not that important. Many people signed on the dotted line and agreed to do that so they can become famous. It is a choice. But at least that's with adults. When you do things to animals and when you do things to children, it's very hard for them to defend themselves. Especially at a young age. And I think it's disgusting. So people have been quiet about this for way too long, and Hollywood is filled with hypocrisy. And I'm actually almost glad to see this stuff coming out and being exposed. Not because victims are being victimized. I mean, you know, Dan Harmon could have absolutely just said, this is a joke, and thought this was funny. It's an inappropriate joke, and he has the right to do it, but that doesn't mean there isn't a right of a consequence. Because if you are a person that owns, like, for example, Disney with James Gunn, who got fired from pedophilia kind of tweets, it sends a bad message to the company, which I find actually pretty hypocritical, because if you actually research Disney, you know, Disney and pedophilia go hand in hand, so I kind of find that ironic that they would fire somebody for something that they constantly have promoted over their lifetime. And if you don't know about that, you know, you could choose to be ignorant on it or naive, or you could start digging into it and see all the things that are happening. So people like Trevor Noah, he was one of those people that, you know, every day talking about, oh, if you like Trump, for example, or you think other than the way we think, the quote-unquote tolerant people, we're going to call you a racist and a sexist and a homophobic. And here he was just making a joke saying that the color of the skin meant they were a certain type of people, not realizing or understanding that that is a racist statement in itself, and he was called out for it. So now is he shocked? Is he going to know how it feels to be having a whole bunch of people jump down your throat and maybe his career gets ruined over it? But you're promoting that stuff. So the time to be silent should end. If anybody out there knows any information where they can back it up with proof, because anybody can make accusations, and I'm not going to sit here and say somebody like Dan Harmon is some pedophile. Just because he made a stupid choice, making what he thought was funny, does not mean that he actually does that. At least I hope not. But you notice that this happens all the time in Hollywood? I mean, how many of you have heard of the word casting couch? It's there because That's how a lot of people have gotten roles, and a lot of people remained very quiet. So I can't really feel bad for people who all of a sudden 30, 40 years later, when their fame is diminished, all of a sudden they cry victim when nobody put a gun to their head. And if somebody did put a gun to their head, if they stayed silent for 30 some odd years, you're no hero, in my opinion. So I find it just disgusting what is going on. But at the same time, maybe finally even those with their head buried deep in the sand will no longer be able to ignore this stuff. I mean, all you have to do is look at video evidence. Type in Joe Biden's inappropriate child touching and watch video after video of him going and inappropriately touching children to the point where it's downright creepy. And yet people will ignore these things for some odd reason. And every time we ignore something, that means it allows it to continue. Do you ever have a person, I mean, I'll give you an example of how the law works. Because, you know, you don't have to be a lawyer to research law, just like you don't have to be a chef to research how to cook. But there's a thing in a law, well, let's say you say 5 of you are in a gang. And you go on a train, and one of your friends says, see that person over there? I'm going to stab them. And your other friends just go along with it. Now, they don't partake in it, but they don't call the cops. They don't stop. They just sit there. And all of a sudden, that friend takes out the knife, goes up to that person, and starts stabbing them, and ends up killing them. Now, there's a policeman on the train, arrests all 5 people. The other 4 say, well, I had nothing to do with it. I didn't stab the person. I didn't have the knife. Only he did it. Well, you know what? They're going to be charged with a crime because they didn't try and stop it. Compliance. People don't understand that it's time to no longer be quiet based on fear. I mean, I've been talking about this since 2011, and look what they've done to my channel. I have over 42,000 subscribers. I'll be lucky if 300 people see this video. Right now, only 34 people are watching this. On my We Love Comics channel, when I was talking about this at first, I had about 60 people watching, and I only have 4,000 subscribers there. So I have 10 times more of these subscribers here, but less people are watching this because YouTube is part of the problem. They want to block this stuff. They want people like us to seem like we're the crazy ones, even though if you actually research it, you see event after event after event after event. When do people start understanding it's time to stop this from happening? A hero isn't a person that goes on the casting couch, whether they're forced or not, gets a contract, becomes an actor or an actress, and spends decades making tons of money. Then when the money runs out and their fame runs out, all of a sudden they talk about what happened 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. That's not a hero. A hero is a person who turns around and says, I think this is wrong. I'm going to actually put a stop to this so it doesn't happen to anybody else. Because just imagine if it happened to you, how many other thousands upon thousands has it happened to? There's only so many accidents and overdoses of drugs before people start questioning, is it just a coincidence that people that say stuff all of a sudden in Hollywood disappear? Or maybe it's a great way to silence people because, like they said in a very famous movie, dead men tell no tales. And normally I don't even want to talk about this stuff, but I really feel that these things need to be addressed because, you know, you cannot fix a problem if you don't realize you have one. And if you don't realize you have one and you don't fix that problem, the problem becomes worse and worse. And right now, Hollywood's turning it, you know, they're going after each other now. Like I said, it's a snake eating their own tail. So, like, for example, like I said, Trevor Noah is now starting to know what it feels like to be called a racist when all you were doing was making a joke. Because there are consequences to what you do and say. It doesn't mean he didn't have the right to do it. So that's the one thing I'm going to say, is with freedom of speech, you have the right to be an idiot. You have the right to say nasty things, inappropriate things. But that doesn't mean there are not consequences. And that's what some people don't seem to understand. I don't agree with silencing people. Like Dan Harmon, does he have the right to make a video where he's inappropriately showing a sexual act towards a baby doll. Well, it's a baby doll and not a real baby, so he does have the right to do such a stupid thing, in my opinion. You could totally disagree, but there are consequences for that, because there are going to be many people that will find that disgusting and maybe not want to buy their product anymore, and you have the right to do that. Just deleting it, because Hollywood's going crazy right now. All these people are deleting all this stuff, thinking that if you delete something on the internet, that means it disappears. He can delete all this stuff all he wants. It's all over the web now. You can't get rid of it. Why do you think that's one of the reasons why that our government wants to take control over the internet? So this way they can control what gets put out there. Why do you think the #1 trending videos on YouTube are cat videos and prank videos and reaction videos and people like the Daily Show's videos? Because they want you to be distracted. They want you to out of sight, out of mind. They want you to stay asleep and stay dumb. And most people will keep giving them their money. And people will attack people like me for wanting to expose this stuff instead of actually going after people that are potentially and even allegedly raping and murdering children. This is not something that is made up in La La Land. I mean, just look at Donald Trump. In his first month of presidency, he arrested 1,000 people for pedophilia rings and child trafficking rings. This is not something that is made up tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theory stuff, although there will be fools that are stupid enough to say it. Whether they're fools or being paid to be foolish, who knows? But evil thrives when good people do nothing. And I think when you see things like this, you have a choice. Do I pretend it doesn't exist? Do I make fun of those that are trying to do the right thing? Do I look the other way? Or do I finally say, today's the day I make a stand? Because look at the Disney movie Ants. If you haven't seen that movie, I highly recommend it, because there is a deep message in there beyond a bunch of talking ants on a cartoon, for people who can actually see it. Because that movie is based on the fact that there are a few grasshoppers, but these grasshoppers are about 10 times the size and strength of one ant. So these grasshoppers, using fear, got the ants to do their work for them. So the ants not only had to collect food for themselves, but before the harvesting season was over, they were scared and intimidated into getting food for the grasshoppers, who would come at the end of the season, collect their offerings, and go on their merry way. And at one point in the movie, the grasshoppers, let's say there's about 30 grasshoppers, but there are 5,000 to 10,000 ants. And the grasshoppers are in Mexico or somewhere celebrating it. They give you the illusion of Mexico. I don't know if that's true or not. But they're sitting in this little bar and saying, oh, we got all the food we can need. We don't even need to go back. And the leader of the grasshoppers says it's not about getting the food. It's about keeping them in line, keeping them scared and intimidated, to always keep them in control. Because if they actually ever learn that they are in control and not the grasshoppers, in other words, the ants are in control, not the grasshoppers, they would lose everything. And by the end of the movie, the ants realize, wait a minute, we don't need you, you need us. And we outnumber you 100 to 1. And they stood up for themselves and defeated the grasshoppers. Because the illusion of fear and the illusion of power is the way you keep people under control. And the sad part is, there are going to be plenty of people that listen to that and who still to this day roll their eyes thinking that this is some La La Land BS. And like I said, I've been talking about the walk away movement and the fake news stuff before anybody thought it was popular these days, mainstream. I started talking about this in 2011. And when people start understanding about what really goes on in Hollywood, not based on what the news media says, because they're bought and paid for, but if you do your own research and just watch video clips, like all you have to do is type in Dan Harmon baby video, and it's right there for you to see. So he can delete that tweet all he wants. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say he didn't have the right to do it. He absolutely, in this country, you have the right to be an idiot. You have the right to be a pervert when it comes to making a joke on a video. Now, If he did that with an actual baby, he should be locked up and thrown away the key. That's a little different. But he didn't do that. So I have to be fair, and you have to be consistent. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom of speech that only you like. It's what everybody has the right to say, but that doesn't mean there are not consequences. And it's just disappointing that there are still to this day people who just don't get it. And maybe these people are just paid to pretend to be idiots. I mean, if you want to sell your soul so you get a little fiat currency, and that's the only way you can get an employment, you know, that's your choice. You have the right to be, like I said, an idiot. And like I was saying earlier, I don't have any children. But I promise you, if you were going to have a babysitter babysit your child, and you saw a video of them even just pretending to want to drug and rape a baby, funny or not, joke or not, real or not, I guarantee you'd at least think twice, if you're a responsible parent, of letting that person be alone with your child. So it's kind of bittersweet in a way, because maybe we're finally getting to the point where people can think that, you know, if people talk about stuff long enough, it's probably something you should at least look at. I'm not telling you to just take my word for it. You should question everybody just to make sure you verify that things are accurate. But until we realize, like I said, you need to realize that these things could potentially be happening, and if we don't stop it or at least acknowledge it, then it's going to continue. And unfortunately, they use fear to control people. It's like, oh, well, you know, you could get murdered, you can get killed. Well, I've been talking about this since 2011, and people have been saying to me for years, oh, be careful what you say, you're going to get killed. Well, they must be bad shots, because I'm still here, and I still will talk about the truth. It's just frustrating that, like I said, I'll be lucky if 300 people see this video out of 42,000 people. And it's not about money, it's about getting the message out. And how I've been blocked and stifled. I mean, people tell me all the time they get unsubscribed. They didn't even know I was making videos. I was blocked for 3 months. Wasn't allowed to do or say, make any kind of live videos. And I was afraid to make videos because if you got another strike, they can actually delete your channel. So, if you haven't watched the whole thing, you know, when it processes, check it. But please, start looking into these things, because there are people's children at stake. And whether this stuff is true or not, I don't know. I'm not part of Hollywood. I will never be a part of Hollywood or the mainstream media. Because if the mainstream media was what it's supposed to be an investigative reporting that's supposed to be the technical fourth branch of government to keep them in check. And we see that that's not the case. They don't have you question things. They tell you things. That is not investigating reporting. That is propaganda and agenda at its finest. That's why no matter what channel you go to, they all are saying the same thing. No one's saying, well, here's what it could be. You determine through your own research. No, they say, here's what happened. Believe what we say. Otherwise, you're a racist, you're a sexist, you're a homophobic, or you're some tinfoil hat wearing crazy person. That's not how it's supposed to work. But we've been so compliant with this that we think that's the norm. That doesn't make it okay. And it's our responsibility to do the right thing. Unless we want to lose this experiment called freedom. You know, thousands upon thousands of people wanted Bernie Sanders to be the next president. He's a socialist. Look how Venezuela's doing on their socialism. Let Bernie Sanders go move down there. Sell all 3 of his houses. Sell his book deal. He sure thrived on the capitalistic part of the United States. It's quite ironic that these people that claim to be socialists thrive extremely well in a capitalistic society. But they don't mention that in their speeches. So any of you that agree with Bernie Sanders, why don't you look at his $600,000 home and all his other little summer homes that he has and his lucrative book deal that he got for selling out. and pretending that him being cheated out of his election for Hillary Clinton didn't matter much. He sold out for a $600,000 home, so it doesn't take a lot to sell out these hypocrites. But people wanted to vote him in, and they think with this, and I'm embarrassed I'm a New Yorker. I'm embarrassed for this woman, who calls herself a democratic socialist, like that changes anything, that was elected somewhere, I think in Queens or Brooklyn or Harlem or one of those little like boroughs. I'm embarrassed for New Yorkers that would actually vote in a socialist. Be careful what you wish for, you may get it. You know, there's a reason why most people don't try and, move into Venezuela, or don't try and, in droves, move into Russia and China and North Korea and Iran and Yugoslavia. It's because they come here because you have more chance of being successful, where you can actually say stupid things and not be thrown in jail or murdered for it. Where you don't have to put a veil over your face and pretend that you're subhuman because you're a different gender. I mean, I believe in true equality, and true equality means everybody's equal, not some. You cannot preach tolerance by being intolerant to anyone else, unless you want to be a hypocrite. And I don't care how angry you get over hearing that. Reality is the true reality. It's whatever you make of it. And you get what you give. So if you give nothing, don't be surprised you get nothing. And I don't care if my video gets 5,000 thumbs down and I get hate all over the place. In my mind, I'm doing the right thing. And if other people don't agree with it, that's irrelevant to what my belief system is. Because I can't even say I believe. I say I know I'm doing the right thing. Because I'm not sitting here pointing my finger and saying something ridiculous like Dan Harmon is a child molester. I would never say that. He made an inappropriate and probably very stupid career-ending video, but that was his choice and he had the right to do it. It wasn't a real child, and I hope it doesn't go further than a baby doll. But there are consequences. But we also have to understand you have the freedom to do it. In this country you do. In some countries you'd be thrown in jail for just having a difference of opinion. Is that the country we want to live in? So keep voting for people like Bernie Sanders and Jill Stein and all these other people. And trash. I love how people will move into this country, especially illegally, and the elitists on the left will all defend it, but yet they don't want them near them. Show me a refugee camp in Hollywood, in Beverly Hills. Show me any refugees that they're saying, oh, we got to tolerate, we got to let them in, just not in my backyard. Show them, have them move in there. Have them move into these elitist homes. How about Trevor Noah, who basically sold himself out? How about have some refugees live in his neighborhood? See how much he loves it then. They're hypocrites. And instead of calling them what they are, illegal immigrants, they just say immigrants. They try and make it like you just take away some words and it'll be fine. You should not do anything illegally. If you want to move into this country, what's wrong with doing it the legal way, the right way? What is so wrong with that? Go into China illegally and watch what happens to you. See if they're tolerant. See if they're going to be people marching in the street for you to get benefits and for you to get a green card and for you to get Social Security. Or do you think they'll probably throw you in jail? Try doing that in Iran or Afghanistan, Venezuela, Colombia. Just walk in. Go to Mexico, just walk in. No passport, just sneak in illegally and watch what they do to you. So, it's unfortunate. Some people are just never going to get it. Some people just don't care. Some people are just too afraid. Some people get paid to troll channels. And I think that's a pretty pathetic, sad way to earn a living. But like I say, karma always finds people. I basically don't even really bother with Hollywood anymore. They're not getting my money anymore. I'm tired of their hypocrisy. Yeah, I'll get a couple of comic books because it's there to protect my investments. Still get the gold and silver. Still have my gold and silver. Just because I haven't talked about it much these days doesn't mean that I don't believe in it anymore. Regardless of the misinformation. So, it's unfortunate, but you can only do what you feel is right. But remember, you get what you give. And I think it's just sad the direction it's headed. But what's even sadder is how many people still believe this stuff is conspiracy theorist stuff. I challenge any of you that say that to actually go on the web and actually start searching stuff out for yourself. Don't just go on some news station where they're paid to tell you misinformation. Because here's the truth about this. The Rick and Morty cartoon, it's owned by Time Warner, who owns CNN. You don't think there's some hypocrisy there? Marvel Studios, who hired James Gunn, is owned by Disney. They are trying to own news stations. Like they just bought, well, they're in the process of buying Fox. I don't know if they're getting the news or not. I could be mistaken on that. But my point is, when you control the message, the way messages get out, you can control information and you can control the people. Why do you think they are trying so hard to control the internet? Why do you think YouTube is doing such a poor job by letting channels like mine become silent and trending cat videos and shows like The Daily Show every day? Because they want people to be complacent. They want people to get a little money so they can be quieted. It's hush money. And I was saying how I'm going to sell my comics when it comes to the Rick and Morty because I don't believe in this stuff. And others were joking around saying, oh yeah, I'll buy them. There are some people, you know, like for example, I hope it's not for a long time, but Stan Lee, who is not even part of Marvel Comics, but he's known for it. He hasn't been with Marvel since the 70s. He's basically like Colonel Sanders at this point. But he's in his late 90s, so I doubt he's going to live for another 100 years. If he does, God bless him. But I guarantee you the day he passes on, and again, I hope it's a long time from now, I guarantee you there will be thousands of people who have his signed books that will put them on the internet hoping to make a buck off him. I won't be one of them, because I think that's a pretty pathetic way to earn money. But some people will do it. Some people just don't have morals. Some just don't care. Some find it a joke until one day it happens to them. So I promise you, the two people I show on here, especially Trevor Noah, who thought he was just saying a joke, and even to a lesser extent, well, the same extent, Dan Harmon, who thought he was just making a joke, are probably not going to get the last laugh. So I've been trying for years to try and get this message across. I've been attacked. I've been humiliated. I've been ignored. I've had family abandon me. But for me, the right thing is worth it all. And I do it again in a heartbeat. Even on my comic book channel. The video I made exposing this stuff already has 10 thumbs down. Some people making comments saying, you know what, I thumbed it down just to get you mad. Well, that's a sad way to live your life. And you know what, I still wouldn't change it, because you know what? 90% of the people in that quote-unquote community that make videos that are going to attack me, the 90% of those people that would attack me, would never be men enough to make their own video and stand up against this stuff. Because they need to fit into the crowd. And that's what most people do. Compliance through just hiding in the crowd, thinking that's true strength. True strength is standing for yourself, doing things on your own, going against what everybody else says to do the right thing, even if it means sacrificing a couple of fiat dollars and some popularity. And that's why I'll never be a YouTube celebrity, and I will never be a Hollywood celebrity, because I am not willing to sell out my principles to make a lot of money and fame, while many are, and then claim to be a victim when they volunteered their servitude. You get what you give. And sadly, some people, especially on my other channel, and I'm saying a few, my regular subscribers, they get it. They understand. I'm talking about the 8 to 10 morons that actually think that because I'm passionate, they mistaken my passion for anger. They're foolish. And that's why I love the 90% of my subscribers on both channels that get it. The ones that come in and say stupid things, if that's what you need to do in your life to think your life has some kind of meaning, I hope you change it. I hope you find a better way. Because everybody has to answer for things that they've done in their lifetime at some point or another. So you might as well try and do as much good as possible. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a saint. I've done things wrong. I mean, heck, back in 2012, I wanted to fight a YouTube subscriber. Well, I don't even know if he was a subscriber. That person to this day still hates me. I got over it years ago, but I wanted to fight the person back in 2012, but that was 6 years ago. I don't want to do that stuff anymore. I got better things to do with my time and energy. So this is an interesting rant that very few will listen to, but those who did see it and those who did see it for the right reasons and want to try and make a change, you know, like I said in the video I made yesterday, if you had a time machine and you can go back in time, many people would be afraid to do that because you're told all your life that if you were ever to go back in time, the slightest change could be dramatically changing the world and could create extreme consequences. But yet so many people are afraid to try and change the future because they say, well, I'm just one person. What could I do? I'm just going to do something small. Well, a river can only overflow and a sea can only create a tsunami and destroy things based on the fact that there are quadrillions upon quadrillions of drops of water all combining to form one destructive force. It's easy to break one twig. Stack 50 twigs together. Good luck trying to snap that in two. Unity. Why do you think in this country, this experiment, it's united we stand, divided we fall? Well, we're pretty divided these days. Be careful what you wish for, you might get it. So, especially the people on my other channel that think it's funny to attack me, you don't realize the consequences and the stupidity of your actions. Or maybe you do and you just don't care. But eventually, you have to pay the ferryman. And you definitely don't want to be there with your pockets empty when you're already on that boat. Because good things will not happen. And that's a choice. Because that's the beautiful thing about this experiment called life. Is in the end, it is all a game. But maybe some of us want to play the game where we end up the hero. Or at least try to be. And maybe there's the others that thrive on being the bad guy. Seeing how much they can get away with. Because in the end, it's just a game. But you know what? If I'm going to play a game, I don't want to be a cheater. I don't want the cheat codes. I don't want to be one of those people that does what everybody else does just to fit in. Maybe I want to try and be one of the heroes. What's wrong with that? Last time I checked, at one point in life, that was something to be looked upon. Now, if you try and give out information, you're called a whistleblower. And you're shamed. Like that's a bad thing to want to help fellow humans by exposing those who are doing wrong. That's pretty much all I have to say. So, to the 30+ people that watched this video, I thank you. Where it goes from here, I have no control over. If you want to share it or you're able to share it, I would love to have the help. If you haven't subscribed and you want to subscribe, please do. If you're one of those people that's tired of the lies and tired of all this stuff, well, spread your voice. Have yourself be heard. Stop being afraid, because if you lose people that were supposedly your friends over something that you believe in strongly and passionately, then how much of a friend were they really? Because your true friends will be with you through thick and thin, not when it's just convenient or beneficial. So all the friends, quote unquote, that I lost by telling the truth and they didn't want to hear it, I didn't cry a day over any one of them. Because by their deeds, you shall know them. So thanks for listening. Have a great day. And please, don't ever think that I think I'm better or far superior or anything like that. I'm just one of those people. I like caring. And there's a price to pay for that. But I'm willing to pay that price to do the right thing the best I can. And it doesn't mean I'm going to get everything right. It doesn't mean that I'm better than anybody else. It just means that I'm me. And that's all I can be. So thanks for listening. Have a great day. And start standing up for truth and in what you believe in. And let's make this world a better place.